Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
Happy Tuesday, all you mentees. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is time to take a look at all of the collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. These books are all due out in the direct market and book market on February 20th or 21st, depending on where you get your books. So we have a new Marvel Masterwork, a modern epic collection, and a reprint of an epic collection, and some new miniseries and one ongoing series. So as always, I leave timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're curious about one or two titles. But before you do jump around, don't forget to smash that like button, please. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. It means the world to us, and it's a very small thing you can do. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Let's kick it off today with the Jean Grey miniseries. Here we have Jean Grey, Flames of Fear. This was the miniseries that was written in 2023. Now, before reading this particular book, I do strongly suggest reading the latest X-Men Hellfire Gala. And it's the one that came out in 2023 because the beginning of this shows what happens to some of the characters in that. So if you haven't read it, I strongly suggest reading that first. Or if you don't care about spoilers or whatever, then yeah, go ahead and let's keep talking about this book. Okay, so collected in here is the 4-issue miniseries Jean Grey, and it has all 4 issues collected in here, plus the covers in the back. It's 112 pages and retails for $15.99. I was really excited about this book because it's the return of Louise Simonson writing this character she hasn't written in a long time. I mean, she did that, what was it, X Factor Forever miniseries, but this feels like it is in continuity, but it is a really interesting, confusing, and lovely book. I'm actually all here for this kind of stuff. 112 pages. So this is all drawn by Bernard Chang, Marcelo Maiolo doing the color, and then the lettering by Ariana Mayer. So Jean Grey, Flames of Fear. In the events of X-Men Hellfire Gala, a lot of the mutants lost their lives. And, I mean, if you're reading the Krakoa era, you know exactly what's going on. They can be brought back. However, the last time when there was a big attack by Orchis, a big surprise attack, they managed to destroy the way that they can bring back some of these characters, some of these mutants. So what's going to happen to all these dead characters? Well, this isn't the first time Jean Grey has been dead. And that's what this explores. This is in the aftermath of what happened in the Hellfire Gala. Her life is somewhere out there. While all of mutant kind is suffering and Professor X has kind of locked away some other people outside of Earth because of Orchis and the deal that they've worked out. This is an interesting freaking book because what we're looking at is the life story of Jean Grey told through her perspective as an outsider. But something's wrong. Something isn't the same. And I'm serious, if you're a big X-head and you love continuity, this is the book that will make you scratch your head immediately going, wait a second, why is Louise Simonson throwing that in there? Because from the first few pages, you're like, yep. Check mark. Of course, yes, we've been there. We've talked about all this stuff. Or, you know, the birth of her mutant powers. Yeah. But then you get to a certain point in here and you're like, wait, what? Why is Jean remembering that? That shouldn't have happened. And this is happening, by the way. I absolutely love this cover. I kind of wish I had used this cover for the trade paperback cover. Nothing wrong with this piece right here. But that is just, oh, lovely. So it's not exactly a look back at history. Some of it is like a look back at a possible history. You're going to see big important parts in Jean's life play out differently through here, particularly things like the Phoenix Saga. or when she joined the X-Men, or the whole time travel thing. The I don't want to spoil it because, but I do feel like I want to talk about it because it's got a really confusing plot. But I really like that about this because at first I was confused. I was like, what exactly is Louise Simonson trying to do? Where the hell is Jean? If she's having all these flashbacks of her previous life and trying to figure out where she is in all of this, then as a reader, do we know where she is? Do we know by the end where she's going to be? Well, I don't know what anybody else. If you've read it, by all means, please let me know. Without going too much into spoilers, because I don't want to spoil this for anybody in the comments below, what you think of the ending of the series. Like, did it wrap up the way that you thought it was going to wrap up? Were you as confused at first? Or were you just like, let's see what happens? I ended up digging this a lot. I can't do the freaking video justice, though, without just going in the spoilers. But I will say, trust in Wheezy that she will take you through this roller coaster of a confusing ride, and you will come out knowing Jean Grey a little bit better because she herself went through this journey with us and got to know herself better. And that is all I will say about that. Let's look at the covers in the back. So we have the textless covers back here. And some of them are in thumbnail size. And other in splash pages. Maddie in her classic outfit. Jean Grey, Flames of Fear. Blade, Volume 1, Mother of Evil. I assume this is an ongoing series just based on that volume number 1. But it did feel like a little mini-series at first. Because I had read the Daughter of Blade, the one that's advertised all the way back here in the back, Bloodline. And it kind of reminded me of that. So we do this time around, we do focus on the character of Eric Brooks. He's back. Written by Brian Hill, Elena Casagrande, and Valentina Pinti are the main artists here. Jordi Belair doing the colors, and then Joe Sabino and Corey Petit doing the lettering. So in this particular story, at the very beginning, it's the return of Eric Brooks, so it is him as Blade, and things have happened previously, mainly in stories like Unforgiven over here, where the werewolves and the vampires have gone to war, and there's come like a middle ground, like an understanding, and he's kind of caught in the middle of all of it. So he does have like a new status quo, and this does do a good job of like filling you in what's going on during this particular time, or his time with the Avengers. But at the very beginning, we see this young lady at a nightclub where she thought she was going to be safe, and she's being hunted down by what appears to be a group of vampires. And then the vampires start getting lit up, and a car just comes crashing through the wall, and out of the driver's seat is none other than Blade. And he's like, you should hide under something while he gets to work. And he gets to work. And then he talks to this young lady. He focuses on her after beating the crap out of all the vampires. And he's like, why are they after you? And as it turns out, there have been creatures after her for more than a week. So we get a little bit of a flashback here. And in this flashback, we get to find out that for some reason, there are creatures that are going after this young lady. So we get a little peek, a little bit of a peek to the past. And this is Blade. He's at her apartment. Her boyfriend has been just stabbed through the wall right there. He's talking to Tanaka. And Tanaka wants to pretty much get him to find this young lady, because she is one of the most important people out there. And he tells her, look, I can't go into detail, but you got to find Dana Smith and you got to save her. You got to keep her safe because of all the things that are going to happen in case you don't. So Blade's like, why do I need to do this? And Tanaka brings up Shibuya, and you get the sense that there's some kind of story going on there. So then we go back to present day, where again, she's being hunted down, this time around by one solo character, not a vampire, but it looks like a creature nonetheless, because it's just big in size. And of course, Blade does the right thing, takes down this creature, because this creature's trying to kill her. Now, what Blade doesn't realize, and as the readers don't realize, is that he seems to have been played here. Because this creature was supposed to kill Dana. And she's like, you should have let him kill me. So when Blade kills the creature, she picks up the creature's sword and she finally awakens. And she introduces herself as Adana, a creature that has been around lurking in the darkness for thousands of years. She's familiar with Blade. He tries to chop her head off. By the way, this is parental advisory just in case because of violence like this. But she's just like holding on her head and still talking. And he realizes he's messed up, that he's been played. How did he let this happen? He was supposed to let this creature kill her. This gets really weird. Like she rips herself, like her skin off, and starts walking around completely skinless. And then we go back to Cambodia, where we see Tulip and a couple of other new characters show up here, and they're talking about how Blade has failed them and how this creature is now on the loose and it's his fault. But this young lady right here breaks Blade out, and she wants Blade to go after this creature. She introduces herself as Rotha. She wants to tag along with him to go and kill Adana. And that's what this first few issues are about. He goes and finds Tulip here to go and get some more help. So he actually assembles his own team. And I will say, do not, whatever you do, because I always read the backs of the books, the description of the books, after I read the books, because sometimes there's spoilers there. Yeah, this one has a big spoiler for what happens at the very end of this trade paperback. So stay away from the back of the description here. Just in case if you judge a book by its cover, hey, this is for you. But if you judge a book by what the premise says, even the pitch in the back spoils something big. I thought it was big. And I think it kind of ruins one of the big plot twists here. There are a couple of other Marvel characters that appear through here that it shouldn't surprise you if you're familiar with the character Blade or the Occult. This collects the first 5 issues, and it has 128 pages, retailing for $17.99. All the way in the back, we do have some variant covers. And I'm pretty sure most people have probably seen that Marvel's releasing this big crossover. Is it the Blood War, I think, something like that, this coming summer of 2024. And there's the Bloodline ad. Children of the Vault. So these are a group of characters that have been around since the X-Men Legacy series by Mike Carey. But Jonathan Hickman was really into these characters and brought them back. And they've been a part of this X-Men Krakoa era. But this is the first time they've gotten their own little mini-series. And this collects all 4 issues of the miniseries, 120 pages, and retailing for $15.99. Now, it's not just the Children of the Vault. It actually features the characters of Bishop and Cable in here. And this is all done by Dennis Camp. And Luca Maresca is the penciler. The color art is by Carlos Lopez. And Corey Petit doing the lettering. This came close to getting my seal of approval. This was such a freaking awesome book. I didn't expect it to be this good. I'm not really familiar with Dennis Camp's work. This is just one of the few books that I've read by him. And I didn't know exactly how he was going to handle these characters. The Children of the Vault, they're okay. They're not some of my favorite characters. They do bring up a lot of interesting storylines, particularly whenever they're dealing with the X-Men. But we do have most of them back here. Like you have Atomo and Serafina, Capitan, and Prissa and Pharaoh. They all do come back. And this is all in the aftermath, I guess I gotta say this again, of the Hellfire Gala. So if you haven't read that, just keep that in mind. Spoilers. Okay, just in case. So Orchis again has crashed the X-Men's party, the Hellfire Gala, destroyed a lot of mutants, killed a lot of mutants, and they're actually kidnapping some of them. At the very beginning of this, the Children of the Vault are awakening. They're being brought back in pods, and they're wondering exactly how they got here, what exactly is happening. And man, this was so good. Okay, So the premise of this is that the children of the vault awaken, and what they start doing is start instituting a new world. All these big utopia cities around the world to kind of bring on the future. We're talking about the future. That word gets played around a lot here. There's some freaking badass lines delivered by Cable and Bishop here. Speaking of Cable, that's the next thing we see. We see Cable just getting prodded, like he's being experimented on. And of course, it's Orcus. Orcus is trying to get secrets out of him, but not secrets that he has about the present. They're more interested in the secrets that he has about the future. And since this guy's from the year 3000 or so, that's exactly what they want. But who comes along and rescues Cable? None other than Bishop. Now, I know most people, most of my viewers, absolutely love the Colin Yost era of X-Men. And I do too. I was a big fan of X-Force. I was not a fan of what editorial and the writers did to my boy Lucas Bishop, though. It was completely destroying the character. I absolutely hated what they did with Bishop. If you read the Messiah Complex, at the very end of Messiah Complex, Bishop does something that, no. Like, the drive for Bishop in the Cable series was awful. I hated it. And I feel like the character is so hard to come back from something like that. But the treatment here was so good. I'm not kidding. Like, if you're a fan of Bishop, you're going to love this. So Bishop comes in and saves Cable. He's like, look, man, I'm trying to get my memories back. What exactly is going on? And both of them just decide to run. They got to get out of Orcus. Cable's like, they got my favorite arm. And Bishop's like, we ain't going to turn back around and go get your arm, man. And Cable's like, no, we're not. He blows up the whole facility with his arm. So what ends up happening is that both of these gentlemen end up getting tied up to the return of the Children of the Vault. Remember what I said? The children are building these cities around the world, these utopian big megalopolis cities to bring on the future. If there's two guys that know what the future is going to bring, it's Bishop and Cable. And both of these guys have been fighting the future. And the whole thing about don't fight the future here, oh man, it just comes full circle by the end. But that's what these Children of the Vault are doing. But they're not doing it fair, if you will. They're not like making people come to them out of their own free will. What they've actually instituted, and as how Cable and Bishop are dragged into the storyline, is they've instituted a virus inside of people. And how Cable finds out is that he finds out that Bishop has a virus inside of him. It's in his brain, and he can't exactly. I love this little thing right here. What is it? It's Nurse Hetty tattoo, and it kind of works like an AI. It's wonderful. But there's a little virus that's living in him, and he has no idea how he's infected or how easy it is to transfer to other people. But this is where Cable realizes that so many people already have the virus in them. Now it's up to them to kind of stop this from spreading and stop exactly what the Children of the Vault are doing. And that is the pitch for this freaking awesome, sweet series. Oh my god, this was so good. The Cable series, my wife read the first issue by Fabian Nicieza. That also takes place right after this series. But I strongly suggest, if you're a fan of Cable, if you're a fan of Bishop, or if you're a fan of the Children of the Vault, by all means, check out this series. It is worth completely checking out. And I feel like it's going to be one of these books like Tim Seeley's Shatterstar that nobody's ever going to talk about. And it needs to be talked about. All right, all the way in the back, we have the covers, textless covers, and two thumbnail covers back here. 120 pages, $15.99. All right, and now it's come to be that part of the video where we remind people to smash that like button, but also take a look at all the spines of the books coming out this week. And yeah, I already reminded people to smash that like button. That's all I've got. All right, let's continue with the overviews. All right, we are at Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, Epic Collection, Volume 4. And this is A Woman Called Widow. This is one that you all voted for and Marvel reprinted. Speaking of voting, that is coming back, our reprint poll. Now, I have the original printing over here on the left-hand side, and I'm sure you probably noticed right away that, hey, what's going on with the title? Yeah, that's right. They redid the whole title here. Colors look about the same, honestly. Uh, Maybe the picture has been shifted down a little bit, but the colors look about the same, a little bit darker. But yeah, the whole logo has been changed up there from Here Comes Daredevil, which is the actual logo from the covers, to this logo right here. Now, does that mean that this is the logo that they're going to keep using? Well, not really, because that's the logo that the title changed to pretty much later on. Like, this is the next Epic collection right here. And it does become Daredevil the Man Without Fear, written this way instead of this way. This is the previous volume. This is volume 3. But I am curious why they decided to go from that to that. Maybe it's because they can have more picture. I don't know. It's just a really interesting choice. And I just realized that was probably the longest time I've spent talking about an Epic collection cover. The spines. So something you can probably tell, this printing right here, the original printing is a lot slimmer than the new printing. The new printing is a fatty. And the back right here, so 1970 to 1972, again, it's a little bit thicker. And the font here has been shifted to the left, so it looks like they just kind of gave it a new treatment. Font looks about the same. The original printing retailed for $39.99. The new printing is $49.99. And it does have the exact same content. Now, of course, the difference is that the original printing was printed at the LSC Communications in the US, whereas the new printing was printed at the Solisco printer in Canada. So, to kind of give you an idea how many more Epic collections there are as opposed to the original printing here. So the original printing was printed in 2019. This one over here printed in 2023. All right. Actually, let's just talk about why it's so much skinnier. And that's got to do with the paper stock. For the original printing, they were using this glossy paper, semi-gloss paper, was really thin compared to the new printing. And to kind of give you an idea, a little less bleed through than over here. This is the new printer that the new paper stock that they've been using for a long time on Epic collections. It's just a little bit thicker. Colors, because we are looking at another type of paper. Look, let's see, just a little bit lighter than over here in this particular paper stock. But that's the big difference, is the type of paper they're using. This is a thinner, like, semi-gloss finish, where this is right here. It almost feels like a satin finish, what they've been using for a while on Epic collections. Okay, so collected in here is Daredevil 64 to 86, as well as Iron Man 35 through 36. 512 pages, $49.99. And what exactly is going on in Daredevil's life through this time? Well, at the very beginning of this, Daredevil's like, hey, where's Karen Page? I can't sense her. I don't know where she is. And later on, he does a little bit of some people would call it detective work. Other people would call it a little bit of stalking. I'm kind of a middleman. I'm kind of a middle of the road type of guy, so it's somewhere in between. He's in love with Karen. He doesn't want to see her go, but my goodness, the amount of trouble that he goes through to try to find her. He ends up finding her, though, in California. She has left New York to go and try to pursue her dreams of becoming an actress. Of course, she gets into trouble, and then Daredevil comes in and saves her. And she realizes that Daredevil isn't ever going to give up being Daredevil, that she loves Matt Murdock. And Matt just was born to be a superhero, and she realizes that she will never ask him to give up the role of a hero. Like, how could you do that to somebody? So Matt's kind of down on his luck. He realizes that she doesn't want to come back. Beautiful, beautiful artwork here, by the way, by Gene Colan. Most of this drawn by the legendary Gene Colan. You have Roy Thomas writing the stories in here, Jerry Conway writing some of the stories in here, and you have the Gary Friedrich stories in here. So eventually Matt does end up leaving and going back to New York to fight off against the Stilt Man, to team up with Black Panther through these issues. Again, beautiful painted pencils by the legendary Gene Colan. The Tribune makes a very interesting character, makes an appearance here. And eventually, what this book does, even though she's not on the cover, but she is on the title, is give us one of the most interesting eras of Daredevil. But not before the team up with Iron Man, where only Nick Fury can control the Zodiac Key. It gives us the introduction of Black Widow to the pages of Daredevil as a support, not just supporting cast, but honestly sharing the covers and sharing the title with. It's almost it becomes like Power Man and Iron Fist for a while as Black Widow joins the book, and as she's joining the book, it's when Karen Page decides, maybe I do love Matt enough to come back. So what's going to happen when Karen realizes that Matt already has this lady in New York and she's also a superhero? How is this love triangle going to work? Are they going to just live together and share a bathroom, have different towels with their names on them? Anyway, you can find out for yourself. This was a lot of fun. She appears in the issue, right here with the owl, where he ends up throwing Matt into the water, and by pure happenstance, Black Widow shows up just in the nick of time to rescue Matt Murdock from drowning. And even though there's, of course, miscommunication at first, she will eventually become a big part of the book. One of my favorite quotes comes from here, and it's all about love. It's about how love is blind. I love that. I know it's right on the nose when you're talking about Daredevil, but man, there's a lot of truth behind that statement. In the back, let's look at the covers. So this is the annual number 2 and annual number 3, and both of these were just reprints of previously released books. Some house ads, some original page art over here. This is actually an unused cover by legendary Gene Colan. And Gene Colan illustrating this piece like a self-portrait, like a Norman Rockwell with all these characters. Man, he was so good. And that is the latest printing of Daredevil, A Woman Called Widow. Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider, Modern Epic Collection, Volume 2. These are coming out in chronological order. This is Weapon of Choice. Now, I think the placeholder cover that we had was the Civil War. I think it was a Civil War cover. But this is the cover that they went with claws coming out of there. And you can probably guess who the claws are done by. Well, there's actually 2 Wolverines in this particular Epic Collection. Lots of artists through here. Written by Jason Latour. But the art, my gosh, you have Chris Bruner. Now, this is just in the annual. But you also have Robbie Rodriguez, Chris Visions, Jorge Coelho, just to name a few of the artists. And then you have Tom Taylor writing the all-new Wolverine annual. And let's talk about what's collected in here then. So this collects Spider-Gwen, the 2015, the second 2015 series, 9 through 24, annual number 1, all-new Wolverine, annual number 1, and Spider-Man, 12 through 14, which is a big storyline. So the annual in here is just a bunch of little mini stories that focuses on her Earth and the different characters that have shown up through her Earth, including a Who's Watching the Watcher type of story. All New Wolverine is a classic, Freaky Friday, is that what it's called? Whenever characters switch bodies, vice versa, 18 again. You know what I'm talking about. So, Laura and Gwen have switched bodies. So, the mind of Laura Kinney right there in Gwen Stacy's body, and the mind of Gwen Stacy in Laura Kinney's body. And Honey Badger is just as confused as the reader. It makes for a really cute story, and I'm glad that it's collected in here again. The stuff that's collected in here has been previously released in omnibus format. Now, this book is my pick of the week if you haven't read this. It is so good. Like, it came close. It came between this and Children of the Vault. But rereading some of the stories in here reminded me how fun and how deep of a story this is. Because while she does have fun, she's a kind of careless character. more of a partier than Peter Parker was. There's a lot of freaking drama that's happening in poor Gwen's life and in her own Earth, right? She has the Kingpin that's after her. She has freaking Frank Castle, who's a police officer in this world, that's coming after her, figuring out exactly who she is. And on top of that, she's a teenager having to deal with all these issues and having to deal with her friends, her band, losing her powers at the very beginning. By the way, the 2 annuals, she still has her powers, but because of what happened in the previous volume, she doesn't have her powers through the beginning of this particular storyline. And man, there's a moment in here with her and her dad that's tears me up. I think it's beautiful because it just shows how much Captain Stacy loves his daughter, no matter what universe it is, and what he's willing to do to sacrifice for her. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful moment. And if you've not read it, you are in for a treat. I get that whenever I was doing my overview of the omnibus, people were like, ugh, that art style is not for me. I get it. It's not for everybody. And that's why I do these overviews. But the story really carries this particular book. It's not just about the art. But, it's a medium. I get it. It's not for everybody. Now, this is the big, long story arc with Miles Morales and how close both of these characters get with each other because they have so much in common. They're not just spider folks, but they have a lot of the same problems with their families that they can share with each other that they can't really share with other characters. And it's a long story arc, and it goes through not just dimension hopping, but also some time hopping there. And by the time you get to the ending of this, you do get another Wolverine team up here. This time around, it's Logan, but is it our Logan? Because during this time, wasn't Logan out of commission, if you will? This does end on a big cliffhanger, but we've already got... Well, I know that Curtis and I have already announced the Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 3. So it won't be too long before you get to read it. But you will want to read it as soon as possible because the cliffhanger is just so good. This book right here has 496 pages. Let's go to the back where we have variant covers. It retails for $44.99. Oh, what's up there? Jeffrey Scott Campbell's Gwenpool. Oh, can't even think. Spider-Gwen. June Brigman. I had forgotten that she did that cover. And then you actually get some profiles here from previous issues of Spider-Gwen. Now, you're going to see Reed Richards, but then again, this is from her Earth, Earth 65. So keep that in mind. And there's the band. So in case you didn't get a chance to read the first volume, the beauty of Epic Collections is you can jump right in and get caught up. Then you have some original art here. And then character sketches. Last but not least is the Marvel Masterworks Invincible Iron Man Volume 17. The Dennis O'Neil era. And you're probably wondering, Omar, how the hell did you give Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider the seal of approval and not this masterpiece? I don't know. I don't script these things out. I just kind of go with the flow. Yeah, that is kind of weird. Because I don't know, sometimes I surprise myself. Maybe it just hit me at the right time. Maybe I was heavily medicated whenever I read it. Because I had been sick last week, finally getting over it. About 85% today. But this is the Dennis O'Neil era. Peter Gillis does one of the issues, the annual. But this collects Invincible Iron Man 171 and 182 and annual number 6, written by Dennis O'Neil. Bob Harris actually does issue 178. Peter Gillis, Luke McDonnell, who actually does the introduction. I love his introduction. And then your inkers, Steve Mitchell, Sam De La Rosa, your letterers, Rick Parker and Diana Albers, and then the color is like Bob Sharon. And uncredited as Roy G. Biv. I wonder who that was. And of course, editors at the time, Mark Grunwald and Mike Carlin. So your table of contents. The book, by the way, I said it collects Iron Man 171 and 182 in annual number 6, but also has 352 pages and retails for $75. Here's your introduction by Luke McDonnell. I love all of this because all of this is, I got to meet Stan Lee twice. and this is my story. And where you think it's going to go, it really doesn't. And he ends up over here going, uh, maybe one day. And did that day ever come? And then he talks about the little behind the scenes of these particular stories, remembering the way that he does. Because unfortunately, Dennis O'Neill's no longer with us. This cover is one of my all-time favorite Iron Man covers. I absolutely love it. And as a kid, I remember having it. I loved it so much that I got this trade paperback a few years ago that doesn't even have issue 174 in here. I don't think it does. I remember being ticked off that it wasn't in here. Yeah, it doesn't have issue 174, just using it for the cover. Speaking of collections, though, the stuff in here has been previously collected in this format. Oh, rather, this format. Sorry, this is the Epic Collection, the very first one. And this is volume 10 and 11 of Iron Man. And yes, I will do... Actually, let's go ahead and do a quick little comparison between the Epic Collection and the new scans. So these are the new masters that they are using for the Masterworks. Corey and his team completely touching up every frame and making it look as clean and crisp as possible. Let's do actually this page right here. Sometimes you have to have a keen eye for these things. And in some, of course, touch-ups stand out a lot more than others. But this kind of gives you an idea of just how vibrant the colors look over here. Then again, you know, this is using the glossy paper stock, and then this is using that paper stock that the Epic Collections have been using for a while. So what is this book about? What's going on through these pages? Well, this is really the beginning of Rhodey being Iron Man. We saw in issue 170 that was collected in the previous Epic Collection that James Rhodes is now Iron Man. So what happened to Tony Stark? Well, Tony Stark, they'll remind you, in every issue, his life is falling apart. He has just given up. And his world is spiraling around him. And it's sad. Like, the more you read this, the more you realize, like, you know, his friends really tried. And then they turn their backs on him because they're like, there's just nothing else we can do for Tony. He's a joke. He's losing the business. There's no way he can ever be Iron Man. You know, he's an alcoholic. He needs to sober up, and the only one that can help him is himself. Even the Avengers get involved in here. So the first real villain he fights is part of the Wrecking Crew right here. And this is, of course, Thunderball. And then we do have Captain America and the rest of the Avengers show up here. They try to help out Tony Stark. Of course, Firebrand joins in on the fun there. But the big thing that happens through here is the big setup to Obadiah Stane taking over Stark Industries, because Tony is just out, man. He's getting beat up by junkies. He doesn't know exactly what he's doing. He's given up on everything. Rhodey's still new to being Iron Man, but still has to abide by the Stark Industries. Yeah, there's that cover to 174. And this is actually a big fight with the Knight. Yeah. But we do get to see some iron armor happening in the next issue in 175. Which is the Atlanteans, yeah, where they end up getting the iron armor and taking it out for a spin, if you will, and you can find out what happens there. Is this Steve Mitchell's doing the inks here? I was making sure, because it looks a little bit different. I like the amount of detail that Mitchell's adds. But there is some hope in here. I'm not saying that Tony Stark is just a lost cause. He does have people that don't give up on him. The Flying Tiger story right here. Power Man and Iron Fist helping out. Rhodey ending up in the East, which of course will lead him to a clash with somebody that owns 10 rings, but not before this really interesting story that's also been collected in the Eternals omnibus. This is the annual number 6, where he does end up meeting with the Eternals through here, written by Peter Gillis. This is the assistant editor month, if I'm not mistaken. This is a really interesting issue, because you have half of it being this goofy story by the assistant editors, and then the other one is the Tony Stark struggling. Yeah, so it's like goofy Mad Magazine type of stories, and then this real downward of a book. Like, this is a downer, man. But there is a really classic issue in here. Oh yes, I was talking about the fight against Mandarin. And it's not just Mandarin. You can probably tell by the green hand right there that the radioactive man shows up through here. But the last issue that's collected in here has this amazing cover. You know, you have Rhodey that goes off into the Secret Wars and joins the rest of the superheroes for that. But you have this right here. In the morning, Tony Stark will be sober or dead. Man, what a freaking cover. I think I remember that one, like seeing that at Dr. Comics at the flea market, and I don't even, and it's probably because English is my second language, and I was a kid. I was like, I don't even know what sober meant back then. You know, seeing that for the first time, I was probably in the 4th grade, and I was like, I understood dead. But this is a really good and powerful issue, and you can find out for yourself how it ends, and if Tony Stark is able to pull himself together. And then in the back, you have some of the stuff from the handbook of the Marvel Universe. Lots of it. And some original art. And then the biographies of some of these folks. And some of them no longer with us. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these titles. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up, which ones you didn't even know were coming out, which ones you're hoping will be out in an omnibus edition one day. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Check out our Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.